There are few names in history that, when spoken, instantly summon a shiver of betrayal. Benedict Arnold, a man whose very name became a curse, whose legacy was sealed not by the countless acts of bravery he once performed, but by a single devastating choice. But what drives a celebrated hero to turn against the very cause he once risked everything for? Was it greed, pride, love, or something far more complicated, hidden beneath layers of ambition and wounded honor? Before he was a traitor, Benedict Arnold was a champion of the American Revolution, admired, trusted, and loved. Before he fell, he soared higher than almost any man of his time. This is not just the story of treason. It is the story of a rise so brilliant it blinded those around him, and a fall so catastrophic it shook a new nation to its core. Step into the world of whispered letters, midnight meetings, shattered loyalties, and a betrayal that changed history forever. The story of Benedict Arnold is not merely black and white. It is a portrait painted in the darkest shades of ambition, regret, and lost glory. Are you ready to discover the man behind the most infamous act of treason in American history? Before the word traitor was forever stitched to his name, Benedict Arnold was something else entirely. A hero, a man whose courage was unmatched, whose name sparked hope in the hearts of patriots and terror in the ranks of British soldiers. Born in 1741 in the rough seaport town of Norwich, Connecticut, Arnold's early life was a brutal education in survival. Once a family of privilege, the Arnolds had fallen into disgrace and ruin. Benedict grew up not with a silver spoon, but with a burning need to reclaim what had been lost, a need that would one day drive him to the highest peaks of fame and the darkest depths of infamy. When the first shots of revolution thundered at Lexington and Concord, Arnold did not hesitate. He saw in the chaos a chance to carve his name into history, not with ink, but with blood and iron. It was Arnold who dared the impossible at Fort Ticonderoga, seizing a critical stronghold while others debated. It was Arnold who led men through the frozen hell of the Maine wilderness in a doomed assault on Quebec, surviving starvation, disease, and mutiny, only to charge forward into battle anyway, musket in hand, eyes blazing with fury. Time and again, where the fighting was fiercest, where death seemed certain, there stood Benedict Arnold, wounded, bleeding, but never breaking. His men followed him not out of duty, but out of awe. Yet behind the shimmering armor of his victories, cracks had begun to form. Arnold's battlefield brilliance did not shield him from the pettiness of politics. Time after time, others reaped the rewards of his sacrifice. Jealous rivals whispered in corridors of power. Congress overlooked him, questioned him, slighted him, and with each insult, a slow, poisonous bitterness crept deeper into his soul. How long could a man of such towering ambition endure being treated like a common soldier? What happens when a hero, denied the glory he believes he deserves, begins to see betrayal not as a sin, but as justice? Benedict Arnold's story was not one of sudden treachery. It was a slow descent, the fall of a man who had once believed he could shape the destiny of a nation. But destiny, as he would learn, is a fickle master. Victory should have brought peace to Benedict Arnold. Instead, it opened the door to his undoing. In 1778, Philadelphia, once the proud beating heart of the Revolution, lay battered and broken. The British had occupied it for nearly a year, and in their wake they left a city divided, patriots who clung to fading dreams of freedom and loyalists who longed for the return of the crown. It was into this volatile world that Benedict Arnold stepped, not as a conqueror, but as the city's new American military governor. Here, amid crumbling mansions and wounded pride, Arnold found something he had long craved, the chance to live the life he believed he deserved. No longer the battle-scarred general of the frontier, Arnold reimagined himself as a man of elegance. He rode in fine carriages, he wore silks and lace. He held lavish parties, surrounded by the wealthy elite, many of whom still harbored secret loyalties to the king. To his critics, Arnold's sudden taste for luxury smelled of betrayal. To Arnold, it was simple justice, a reward long overdue. But it was not just ambition that whispered to him in the candlelit halls of Philadelphia. It was love. Peggy Shippen, young, beautiful, and from one of the city's most influential Loyalist families, captured Arnold's heart like no battlefield ever had. She was refined, charming, dangerously connected. Through Peggy, the lines between patriot and loyalist blurred. Through Peggy, Arnold would be drawn deeper into a world of whispered intrigue, secret allegiances, and glittering temptations. And through Peggy, a door was opened. A door to Major John Andre, the British spymaster who saw in Arnold a prize beyond imagining. Was it love that began to sway Arnold's loyalty? Was it ambition, pride, resentment, or the dangerous mixture of all? As Benedict Arnold waltzed through the ballrooms of Philadelphia, the fate of the American Revolution itself began to tremble, not from cannon fire, but from a betrayal yet to be born. And the man who might have been America's greatest hero was already stepping, unknowingly, toward the point of no return. It began with letters, harmless, almost invisible, ink that faded into blankness, words hidden between the lines. But behind each carefully folded page, behind each innocent-looking note, a plot was taking shape that would shake the very foundation of a newborn nation. Benedict Arnold had made his choice, though he dared not speak it aloud. The glories he fought for seemed distant now. Honor had been cheapened by jealousy, recognition stolen by lesser men. In its place grew a hunger that no battlefield could satisfy, the hunger for vindication. Using aliases, Arnold as Gustavus, Major John Andre as John Anderson, they began a dance more dangerous than any cavalry charge. Invisible ink concealed promises and demands. Trusted couriers whispered through enemy lines. At first it was cautious, minor details, vague offers, probing questions, but caution soon gave way to ambition. Arnold was no longer content to deliver scraps. He would offer the British a masterpiece of betrayal, the crown jewel of the American defenses, West Point. With control of West Point, the British could sever New England from the rest of the colonies like a butcher's knife slicing through flesh. The rebellion would wither. The dream of American independence would die, strangled on the banks of the Hudson River. And Arnold would be rewarded, a British general's commission, wealth beyond his debts, the honor he believed fate and Congress had denied him. But treason is a delicate craft. One loose thread, one missed message, one wrong move, and everything could collapse. As Arnold tightened his grip on West Point, slowly sabotaging its defenses, he felt invincible, invisible, untouchable. He forgot the simple truth. No matter how carefully you hide the dagger, betrayal always leaves a stain. And somewhere, beyond the silent ink and secret oaths, destiny was already conspiring to unmask him. The knock came early, too early, pounding at the door like the heartbeat of doom. Benedict Arnold, in full uniform, froze where he stood. A messenger had arrived with grim news. Major John Andre had been captured. Worse, they had found the documents, the plans, the proof. In a single breath, Arnold's grand betrayal lay exposed, its bloody heart revealed to the very men he had vowed to serve. He had minutes, perhaps only seconds, before the walls closed in. His wife, Peggy, played her part with desperate brilliance, shrieking and sobbing with such ferocity that even hardened officers backed away, giving Arnold the slimmest window he needed. Under the guise of tending to his hysterical wife, Arnold slipped from the room, out of the house, out of honor, and into legend. Every step down the staircase echoed like a drumbeat of guilt. Every glance over his shoulder carried the weight of 1,000 accusations. He mounted his horse with a calm he did not feel and galloped toward the Hudson, toward the British warship Vulture, toward salvation, or damnation. Behind him, chaos erupted. Washington himself, moments away from breakfast with Arnold, would soon discover the truth. Had he arrived minutes earlier, history might have been rewritten with a single arrest. A different traitor might have been born. A different nation might have emerged. But fate, cruel, capricious fate, granted Arnold just enough time to vanish into the mist. When he finally reached the Vulture and clambered aboard, Benedict Arnold was no longer a general of the Continental Army. He was something else entirely, a fugitive, a villain, a living ghost of the cause he had betrayed. He had traded his honor for a handful of gold and a broken promise of glory. But as he sailed away from the land he once fought to free, did he feel triumph or terror? Benedict Arnold had escaped the hangman's noose, but he would never escape his name, a name that even now drips with betrayal across the pages of history. Benedict Arnold had fled, but he had not escaped. The price of treason is never paid in a single night. Arnold had traded his allegiance for British gold, for a commission in the enemy's army, for promises of wealth and recognition. But what he received was something far colder and far more permanent. In London, he was greeted not as a hero, but with wary glances and silent scorn. The British, ever suspicious, honored their debt in coin, but withheld their true acceptance. Even among his new allies, whispers followed him like a shadow. If he could betray his own country, could he not betray them as well? Arnold had crossed a line few dared to approach, and in doing so, he found himself a man without a country, without a people, without a true friend. To the Americans, he was a name spat out with venom. To the British, he was a useful tool, and nothing more. As the years dragged on, Arnold moved through London like a ghost, restless and bitter. The fortune he had hoped to build crumbled with reckless investments and squandered opportunities. His body, broken by old war wounds, betrayed him just as surely as he had betrayed his cause. Even his death, when it finally came in 1801, offered no redemption. No grand funeral, no mourning crowds, only a withered man in a foreign land, clutching the fragments of dreams that had long since turned to dust. They say that in his final moments, delirious with fever, Arnold called out for his old Continental uniform, begging to die in the colors he had once worn with pride. But history is not so easily rewritten. The name Benedict Arnold would forever remain a byword for treachery, a warning carved into the very soul of a nation. He had once dreamed of eternal glory. He achieved it, but not the kind he had imagined. Benedict Arnold had thought he could outrun his fate. But the past, like a relentless tide, always catches up. Years passed, but the name Arnold carried a weight no man could shake. It was no longer just his name. It had become a curse, a symbol of betrayal so deeply etched into the American psyche that it could never be erased. To utter his name was to call down the wrath of history itself. In the quiet, dim-lit rooms of his London residence, Arnold often stared at the mirror, searching for a reflection that would offer him solace, a glimpse of the man he had once been. But he never found it. Instead, he saw a shadow, a man broken, haunted, suffocated by the choices he had made. The gold he had once thought would buy him peace only served to bury him deeper in isolation. The applause he had dreamed of never came. No victories, no triumphs, no glorious battles, only whispers of shame. And with every whisper came a tightening knot in his chest. He was not forgotten, not by a long shot. But the fame that followed him was not the fame he had once desired. It was the fame of a villain, the treacherous general who had sold out his country, who had chosen gold over honor, who had traded his legacy for a place in the enemy's camp. Even in death, Arnold's name would never find peace. When he passed away in 1801, the final indignity followed him. No grand memorial. But history could never forget. For the story of Benedict Arnold, though it was one of loss and damnation, would continue to be told, again and again. the story of a man who had stood on the precipice of greatness and stepped backward into the abyss. His name, a scar on the very fabric of American identity, would haunt the nation for centuries. It would remind generations of what happens when loyalty falters, when ambition becomes a prison, and when a hero chooses to betray the cause that had once given him life. The question remains unanswered. Could Benedict Arnold have redeemed himself? Could he have returned to the cause he once fought for? Or was his legacy, a legacy of shame, sealed the moment he first made the fateful choice to betray the land that had made him a hero? One thing is certain. Arnold would never be free of the weight of his actions, not in life and not in death. Benedict Arnold's journey from celebrated hero to notorious traitor is a story of ambition, betrayal, and the crushing weight of unmet expectations. Once hailed for his daring victories in the Continental Army, including the capture of Fort Ticonderoga and his leadership at the Battle of Saratoga, Arnold was a symbol of American hope in the Revolution. However, despite his military successes, he was repeatedly passed over for promotions by Congress, fueling a simmering resentment. His pride wounded, Arnold began to feel betrayed by the very cause he had fought for. This resentment grew as Arnold's sense of injustice took hold. He began covertly negotiating with British officials, offering intelligence and strategic information in exchange for British support. His disillusionment with the American cause deepened, and his ambition blinded him to the ideals he had once cherished. Arnold's most infamous betrayal came in the form of his plot to hand over West Point, a crucial fort on the Hudson River, to the British. As commander of the fort, he had unparalleled access to its defenses, and he planned to give it up in exchange for a promised British commission and a fortune in gold. However, his plans fell apart when British agent Major John Andre was captured, carrying documents that exposed Arnold's treachery. In the chaos that followed, Arnold narrowly escaped, fleeing to the British lines, abandoning his comrades and his country. Though the British welcomed him, Arnold soon found that his new allies treated him as little more than a tool. His military successes in British service did little to repair his fractured soul, and his life in exile was marked by bitterness and isolation. No matter how many battles he fought for the British, Arnold could never escape the shame of his betrayal. By the time Arnold died in 1801, his name had become a symbol of treason. He was buried with little fanfare in London, far from the country he had once fought for. His death was unremarkable, and his legacy remained forever tarnished by his choices. History remembers Benedict Arnold not as a hero, but as the ultimate cautionary tale, a man whose ambition and disillusionment led him to betray the very cause that had once made him great. His name lives on as a symbol of ultimate betrayal, a ghost of a hero lost to history, forever marked by the price of treason. And so, the tale of Benedict Arnold is one etched into the annals of history, not as a story of glory or triumph, but as a chilling reminder of the price of betrayal. His name, once synonymous with honor, is now forever entwined with treachery, forever marked by the decisions of a man who sought glory at the cost of everything he once believed in. Benedict Arnold's life serves as a warning, not just to those who seek fame, fortune, or revenge, but to all who believe that loyalty is something that can be traded for personal gain. For history has a way of preserving the names of those who betray, ensuring that they are never forgotten. And sometimes the most powerful legacies are not the ones we desire, but the ones we fear. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life of a man who rose from hero to villain. If this story has intrigued you, made you question the nature of loyalty, or left you wondering what could have been, then our work here is done. For in the end, perhaps it is not just the grand victories or the tragic falls that shape history, but the choices we make in the quiet moments when no one is watching. Until next time, keep seeking the untold stories that lie beyond the surface. For sometimes, the most dangerous secrets are the ones hiding in plain sight.